It's 7 p.m. on April 2nd. This is our first regular City Commission meeting for the City of Ormond Beach. We are in Commission Chambers and hope you felt welcomed when you came in this evening. Police Captain Chris Roos and our Deputy Public Works Director Kevin Gray served as our greeters tonight. I'd like to take a moment just to introduce the folks up in front of you. To my right, your left, we have Recording Secretary Taylor Lockhart. And if I can pull up my email from Susan, I can tell you. We also have cross-training this evening next to Taylor, a young man named Justin Isaacs. Justin's, give a wave. Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome, absolutely. Next is City Clerk Susan Dotteris. Then we have Commissioner from Zone 1, Lori Tolland.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Commissioner from Zone 2, Travis Sargent.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
To my left and your right, our Zone 3 Commissioner, former Deputy Mayor, Susan Persis.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome.
And next we have our current Deputy Mayor, Zone 4 Commissioner, Harold Briley.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome.
Then we have City Manager Joyce Shanahan. Next is Assistant City Manager Claire Whitley, City Attorney Randy Hayes, and then way over there next to the window, Police Chief Jesse Godfrey, and Fire Chief Howard Bailey. For those of you listening online, I'm Mayor Bill Partington, and we'll start tonight's meeting, as we do every meeting, with invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please silence your cell phones. And the invocation tonight is given by Evangelist John J. Seelan from Bethel Ministries.
Let's pray together. Apostle Paul wrote in Romans chapter 13, verse 1, that every soul be subject to the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The power that be are ordained of God. Father God, we thank you. We recognize these precious leaders of our city as God-appointed, God-ordained leaders over our city. Lord, we are so proud of our city, a city with peace and joy. And God, I thank you for your protection upon our land, upon our city. Lord, we ask for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to these precious leaders, Lord God, to take godly decisions for the protection and the welfare of the citizens. And God, I thank you. We pray for a great awakening of your righteousness, for people to turn to you and to call upon your name and be totally transformed. Lord, bless everyone, especially these leaders and all of our inhabitants. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this is the fun part of our meeting. Fun, but still important when a community comes together and takes time to recognize special individuals who have made significant contributions. And tonight we have a young man named Graham Johnston. Graham, if you'll come up, and if you want to bring your family, we're happy to have them. I'm going to read the proclamation. I'm going to let Persis explain how she knows Graham. She actually requested this proclamation, which I thought was a fantastic idea. And really, it's from the entire commission to recognize you. And then we're going to get some pictures. So Whereas the Boy Scouts of America have long been involved in teaching young individuals about flag etiquette and the proper way to retire flags, Graham Johnston, a Seabreeze High School student, learned the importance of retiring flags during his time as a Cub Scout. And whereas Graham advanced to become a Boy Scout of Troop 403, finding himself in a unique position where teachers, friends, and family members approached him with old flags needing to be retired and not knowing how to do so. This experience had a profound impact on him. And whereas when the time came to choose his Eagle Scout service project, Graham drew on his experience and knowledge to address the need for flag retirement resources in the community. With the help of donations, including support from the Ormond Rotary, he raised the necessary funds to make this project a reality. And whereas in February 2023, the first drop box was installed at the Lighthouse Christ Presbyterian Church, the second found its home at the American Legion Post 267. The drop boxes themselves were made by America Security Cabinets, with Graham customizing their design to ensure they were functional and aesthetically pleasing. The boxes are accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, allowing people to drop off flags at their convenience. And whereas Graham's project provides a much-needed service to the community and ensures these patriotic symbols are retired with dignity and honor, and whereas Graham's flag retirement project is a shining example of the impact one person can have when they are committed to a cause, through his leadership and initiative, he was able to bring together community members, organizations, and resources to create a lasting impact. Now, therefore, I, Bill Partington, Mayor of the City of Ormond Beach, on behalf of the entire Commission, do hereby proclaim today, April 2nd, 2024, as a day to recognize Graham Johnston in the City of Ormond Beach and urge all residents to join me in showing their appreciation for the lasting impact he has made on the Ormond Beach community. Congratulations, Graham.
Wow, I am so proud of you. When I saw this in the paper, Graham, I totally forgot you were my kindergarten student at Pine Trail Elementary, and now look how big you are. I mean, it's like, wow. But, you know, this is a perfect example of our young people. Sometimes people say negative things about some of our young people, but you know what? I never do, because this is how they grow up. This is how they learn. Look how special what he's done with flags. What a representation of our country and what it means to each of us and what it should mean to every single person. I can't think of a better person, a better project that you have done, Graham. It's just amazing. I wish we had some more people from the armed forces, and I know our police chief, I know our fire chief, and anybody that served knows how important this is about our flags and how we should take care of them. And just basically how we should take care of our world and of our cities. So, Graham, I know you're a great representation of the city of Ormond Beach. I know the principal at Seabreeze, Tucker Harris, is extremely proud of you, and I'm sure he's going to be saying something to you. But keep up the good work. I know there's great things ahead of you. You have a fabulous family. Just, you know, we're just very, very proud of you. And on behalf of all the commission that are standing right behind me and Mayor Partington, we want to give you this special key to the city. Thank you. Thank you. We're so proud of you.
Audience remarks. We have one card, and it's Alan Burton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Commission. Alan Burton, 915 Ocean Shore Boulevard. I would like to present to you the idea of integrating the idea of the capital improvements project with the Regrow the Loop. The City Commission supports Regrow the Loop. To integrate Regrow the Loop with the city, of course, you could use it as a resolution, CIP, budget, goals and objectives, your comp plan, your land development code, and your park and recreation master plan. And what I'm asking you tonight is have you, Mr. Mayor, or the City Commission, direct the city manager to put the Regrow the Loop in the CIP project for 5 years. Place it in there so it's outlined within the CIP. In the first year, put together all the plans for all the parks along the loop to make the plans like you did at Casson Park and the other projects that you reviewed today. And then year 2 through 5, provide yearly implementation for the park rehabilitation for all the parks along the 30 miles of the loop. For the city of Ormond Beach, of course. The one guiding light which I'd like to also bring to your attention is that it's been done before, and with great effort, desire, and dedication, is Vadner Park. And I know one of the city commissioners was pretty involved with Vadner Park, and I really respect the work that not only Lori, Commissioner Tallon has done, and the Garden Club, but they did it. They showed us how to do it. And I'm asking you as a city, let's follow their lead. So I understand that the City Hall will be redesigned. You're looking at adding an additional native plants to Casson Park, of which it's a larger design. But my overall idea tonight is to integrate the idea of Regrow the Loop through your park rehabilitation, through all of it, which is also referred to in your Park and Recreation Master Plan too. It's a little different, but it is there. And that put it in the CIP that over time, it's not going to happen by June of this year, but over time, and when I get to be an old guy, that park by park, plant by plant, you'll eventually have the loop be more native and have the canopy and the understory so that it is more natural, saves energy, reduces insecticides, toxins, things like that, and that you will have a crown jewel not only in Volusia County, but in the state of Florida. And it can start right here with the City Commission, with you tonight, Mr. Mayor. Come on.
Perfect. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Commission, we have the approval of minutes. They've been sent to us for review, also posted to the city's website. These are from March 19th, 2024. Any additions, deletions, or corrections?
Move approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We'll show those passing unanimously, and we are now on the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull any item off the consent agenda? Commissioner Sargent.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull items D and E.
Anyone else?
I move approval of the consent agenda minus items D and E.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Tolland?
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Briley?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. 7D.
Resolution number 2024-53, a resolution authorizing the execution of an electric vehicle charging equipment agreement with Florida Power and Light for the installation of electric vehicle charging stations in City Hall parking lot, authorizing the execution of an easement in favor of Florida Power and Light, authorizing the purchase of project-specific insurance, and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2024-53, read by title only.
Thank you. Just need a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Commissioner Sargent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple questions on this. We're providing FPL an easement. After the 10-year commitment period, if these are taken out, does that easement revert back to the city of Ormond, or will that stay with FPL? How does that work?
Typically, it wouldn't necessarily go. I think that we could write that in a manner that it would revert back to, but we're doing a pretty general easement that essentially parallels the right-of-way. It doesn't really encumber anything on the property that would be where we would be looking at doing anything else. So I don't know that there's a advantage to vacating the easement, but, you know, typically we would not. We would go back.
And also, Mr. Mayor, I have two more things. I'm not a big fan of the location of these spots. They're at the very far end of our parking lot, and I don't foresee them being utilized. People parking there to walk to the grind or to walk to Ormond Garage. They're on the other side of the parking lot. I'm not a big fan of the location of them, but I understand that that's because there's some.
The original location that would have been the first choice was down here at the north end where we've got the city vehicles. FP&L took a look at that. Their engineers took a look at the entire system, network diagram. There isn't any capacity on that loop, that electric loop that's there. I checked with, we have a representative from FP&L who can answer some questions probably better than I can, but we discussed it. There, you know, is it even a possibility of the city paying to upgrade it? That's not even a possibility. So one of the things that he and I talked about, you know, these are destinations, and so I think that, you know, someone who's looking to use an EV, we'll seek it out. We'll walk this a couple extra steps. We've got a lot of other things. Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning, farmers market seems like a perfect day. So I think that hopefully they will get used.
Okay. My last, is it possible that FPL would be willing to put solar panel, like a roof, you know, carport type of thing to like Tanger Outlet or Legoland in Kissimmee, so we can capture some of the energy from the wonderful sun that we have and reuse it.
I'm going to defer to Peter Martinez from FPNL. He could probably go through a little bit of some of the facilities that are available.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. We do have a separate program for solar power. It would be completely separate from this, but we could explore some options with you.
Thank you. I'd like to see that. I don't know if the rest of the commission would, but I think that would be showing a good example in our parking lot to have a structure like that.
I think using the solar energy is a great idea, and actually we're instituting that down at Father Lopez right now for parking with solar. If that's the case, though, I don't think the location that was chosen from FP&L in that far back corner, because that's a tree canopy, would work. So you would have to change location as well.
Mr. Mayor?
Good stuff to look
I was
at.
just
Deputy
gonna-
Mayor Brown.
I was just going to point out, I don't know, of many areas in our parking lot where we do get a lot of direct sun. Most of it's filtered sun. So I don't know how well it might work in our parking lot. I like the idea. I just don't know how well it would work in our parking lot. Maybe the spots up here along the front where there's no trees up against the building, but the rest of the parking lot is pretty well canopied.
Agreed.
Something to look at, for sure.
That's all I have.
Great
Mr.
ideas.
Mayor.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, Commissioner Sargent, that's a great idea. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Sargent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Briley,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolland,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 7E.
Resolution number 2024-54, a resolution accepting a proposal from Avcon, Inc. to perform an aeronautical survey and prepare an obstacle action plan for the Ormond Beach Municipal Airport, authorizing the execution of a work authorization and payment therefore, and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2024-54, read by title only.
Thank you. And I have 5 cards. We'll start with Daryl Hickman, followed by Connie Colby. Please direct your comments to the chair, and you have 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Daryl Hickman. I live at 323 Rivervale Lane. My wife and I both run small businesses at the airport. My business attracts people from all over the country to come in for 2 or 3 days. They bring their family. They stay here at Ormond Beach, maybe their first time visiting this part of the country. This obstacle clearance survey is very necessary to ensure the safety of both pilots flying into the airport and those around the airport. So I would appreciate your support in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Connie Colby. Connie's followed by Sharon Trescott.
Good evening, Connie Colby, 108 Roble Lane in Ormond Beach. I'm pretty much popcorn talking, as my kids call it tonight, just asking a lot of stupid questions, I guess. I don't understand a lot of what was written on your attachments. I don't understand why this survey is restricted to only the airport property. When the 2018 environmental assessment was done for FAA for the grant that was withdrawn, that included off-property as well. And I would hate to think that we'll have to redo this at some point in the future if we need to do that same assessment again. FAA states that it wants the survey highly prioritized as it's essential for incurring compliance of the Ormond Beach Municipal Airport with FAA regulations and ensuring safety of airport operations and the flying public. Several references in the report, the FDOT reports, are for relocating the perimeter fencing around the airport property. Recently, there was a discussion about the lack of an accurate survey of the property. Has this been accomplished? If not, how do you know that you're going to put the fence in the proper location? The 2023 and the 2024 FDO reports were very similar, but not much progress seemed to have been made between the two. There were several differences in slopes, and I don't understand any of that. It states that the airport is operating with a special permit. Maybe someone could explain that. Why do we have an airport advisory board? It doesn't seem to meet very often. I think the last time was in May of 2023. And last, this is not particularly about that particular incident, but the airport should be self-sustaining, and it owes the money to the residents, over $1 million at this point, and I don't see any place where they're attempting to pay anything back. In real life, if I owed Dillard's that much, my husband would be cutting out my credit card. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Next, we have Sharon Trescott, followed by Michael Rogers.
Thank you, Sharon Trescott, Ormond Beach. And I first want to thank commissioners that have reached out and showed an interest in giving their time to better understand this. And I hope that the letters that I provided you copies of tonight at your seats will help you understand my questions. My property adjoins the airport by about 300 feet in the back. And I'd like to know the study that is being done, the Aegis study. I'd like to know what distance out from the airport that this Aegis study will address. Number 2, flooding. I'd like to know what plans/study that the airport will provide to address additional issues concerning when the trees on airport per this study of the airport property are addressed. You have obstructions that have to be removed. It's very obvious. Number 3, is this why the NEPA is mentioned? Will there be an environmental study to address the effects that are impacted besides just removing trees for airplanes? Number 4, will this obstruction action plan clearly identify any off-airport objects such as trees, houses, and so forth that are obstructions to the existing approach/departure surfaces per their use now, not future, now. And again, it's safety that we've all been concerned with. This is finally, I want to thank, because it's finally gotten someone after we've been dealing with this for over 4 years as county property adjoining this. Number 5, it appears FDOT does not have anything to do with the flight procedure regulations/slopes, such as a 40-to-1. And I think the approach and departure TERPs. How will this study address this concern and the 40-to-1 sloping that emails from Scott Carrero mentions and questions? The concern for my property is under county overlay completely, and part of the city overlay is on mine in the back as well. I have a letter from Mr. Spraker I questioned some things. I'm not doubting his comments, but I do feel I deserve to know the ways that being under both and the restrictions that my property has or can have, and identified with the additional sloping that's not I feel is not being addressed with this Aegis study. It appears it's only on airport to satisfy the FDOT license, and that does not address a 40-to-1 slope. Again, I thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Michael Rogers, followed by Arthur Armstrong.
Michael Rogers, 667 Pineland Trail, Ormond Beach, Florida. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I want to speak, and I think we all can agree, Mr. Knobberg was here first and spoke to the fact that this Aegis study is extremely important. I would concur wholeheartedly. So much so that I have a little concern that as I read the draft for tonight's work authorization, nowhere in it does it mention anything regarding this being done off airport property. The problem that is, even in September, when we decided to punt the Hoyle Tanner work authorization, which, by the way, did include on and off airport obstruction survey to be done, this doesn't. And yes, this does mention FDOT quite a bit, in fact, and that's great. FDOT does your yearly inspections. In fact, as noted, you're currently working on a special license because you can't pass a proper license for the last 3 or 4 years at the airport. The problem I have with this is reverting back to FAA guidelines. If we're going to do something like this and we're going to spend almost $120,000 of grant money, how about let's do it right so we don't have to keep spending over and over and over again, contributing to that $1.2 million deficit. To be kind of quick here, I'll read from this. And I know Mr. Licklider doesn't like to use this withdrawal letter, but in the withdrawal letter from 2022, August 2022 from FAA, it stated that an updated ALP for the proposed 600-foot could not be approved due to obstructions. Not only are obstructions large trees identified for the extended runway condition, but there are obstructions to the existing design surfaces in the runway's current condition, meaning without an extension. As we stand today, it's still the same. Several of those trees are off airport property, which complicates obstruction removal. Although required, an Aegis survey was not performed during the design of the original runway extension, one of the many things that was not done properly. The ADO is not able to sign the ALP and update the survey information as depicted, and the obstacles are until it is depicted and the obstacles are removed, especially for obstacle penetrations to the existing threshold sighting surfaces per airport design. The Aegis obstacle data survey is required on federal projects with a safety critical component such as NAVAs, runway ends, and so on. Is a key component of FAA flight procedures to amend the published Runway 9 local performance with vertical guidance approach procedures as well. The Aegis survey is critical to flight procedures, review of impacts to terminal TERPS criteria, and determination of instrument flight rules effects. The Aegis effort can and should be completed concurrently with the ongoing NEPA coordination, which is not mentioned anything in here. In fact, it is required to identify limits of the tree removal necessary, as well as to disclose the impacts to the neighboring residential properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Arthur Armstrong, and then Arthur will be followed by a email that Commissioner Sargent asked to have 3 minutes to read into the record. Yes, sir.
Good evening, all. Arthur Armstrong, Ormond Beach, of course. I stand here and with some great people behind us that have just mentioned a lot of things. My biggest concern is the FDOT is not adequate enough to do the study that's necessary to go forward on any tree removal, whether it be on property or off property. Of course, they can't go off property with the FDOT, if I understand it right. I don't understand everything as we speak, but common sense should be something we have to look at. We have properties that are but that the city of Ormond Beach, many years before any of you have been involved, was allowed to build residential communities, Bear Creek for one. In normal circumstances, that particular subdivision would have never been allowed to build there in today's era. That was a piece of commercial property back when. And then the city decided that the right person, they're gonna give it the ability to change the zoning to residential, so they put 664 homes right next to an airport. The airport was given to the city of Ormond Beach for nothing because it's worth nothing. I'm not trying to take anything away from the people that run the airport. I'm not trying to, anybody that's in there trying to make a living. But the airport is inadequate where it's located because of what the community has grown and the way it's grown, with another 2,500 homes potentially going down the street. There's no place for the planes to go if there's an issue. And if you've ever been involved with aviation, which I have a little bit when in the service, when they go down in the jungle, you're in trouble. Well, this is a jungle out there in some of the places that we have the trees and whatnot. We cannot allow trees to be removed. Not only is it bad enough in the airport area, but also surrounding areas, our closed golf course. The other issue is, of course, the trees buffer Bear Creek and other communities. You can't do it this way. And the other thing is, the FDOT is not the adequate study. It's just not. You've got to go with the FAA. That's my concerns with that, is to do it and do the study right. So that way there we can come back. And the other thing is Stephen, we need to have some more open meetings. We need to take and have the public involved with it. I would love to be involved with it just so I can learn something. I mean, I really would learn a lot more than try to read it out of internet or something like that. I'm very anxious maybe to do that and be involved with it. We cannot allow a community like we have to have an airport that's inefficient. You go up to Flagler. I was at Flagler at the big event there with all the planes and stuff. They got their act together, and it's no reflection on management. It's not. It's the airport. I'm not knocking anybody that runs the airport. Please don't think that. But the airport was given to us because the government didn't want it. That's for sure. It's inadequate. It was only good back in World War II. Now, and then the other thing is really bothers me real quick, and I'm going to run out of time, is we're in debt up to our ears.
Thank you. Commission, I need to ask your permission. I'll let Commissioner Sargent submit his request, but I think we should all agree to it. Do you want to explain with the email that you got and the request from the resident?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. A resident could not attend tonight. Ms. Karen August just sent me an email asking if I could read it in record, if everyone's okay with that. I would like to just take 3 minutes, like everyone else is awarded, to read it.
Correct. And that's not the normal procedure, but if the commission agrees with that, we can allow it, I believe. So I'm
No
seeing
issue.
everybody's head shaking yes. So go ahead.
Start the clock. I'll try to read quickly. Ms. August wrote, I asked the city to please verify by email with Rebecca Harper and Scott Carrera from FAA that this work authorization will satisfy FAA LPV instrument flight procedure requirements. My concern is email dated February 24th, 2023, where FAA responded to Mr. Licklider addressing runway 927 only per FDOT report. February 24, 2023, emails Scott Carrera to Stephen Licklider. Thank you for providing the anticipated timeline to accomplish the AGIS survey and obstacle action plan. However, I am perplexed that runway 1734 is not being included in the scope of the AGIS survey. The FDOT inspection report identifies Part 77 identifies Part 77 obstructions in the approach of both runway 927 and runway 1735. Additionally, runway 17 has published LPV and, pardon me, I'm not an aviator, so these terms might come across wrong, LNAV and VNAV approaches, which require more critical clearance services that the Part 77 services evaluated during the FDOT inspection. AC 150/5300-13B airport design requires a clear 30-to-1 approach surface measured from the runway threshold for the runway 17 approach. There are also published instrument departure procedures for each runway at Ormond Municipal Airport that require clear 40-to-1 departure surfaces measured from the runway ends. It is necessary to address the existing obstructions for each runway at the airport to fulfill FAA grant assurances and obtaining AGIS data for both runway 927 and runway 1735 is vital to accomplish and verify clear approaches and departure services. If limited funding is an issue, we can clearly discuss FAA funding. Obstruction survey and removal is a top priority for the FAA at Ormond Municipal Airport. And these projects compete well for FAA funding. The September 2022 guidance titled Approach and Departure Services Protection, referenced in the agenda packet, page 5 and 6, grant assurances, FAA grant assurances, and property conveyance obligations if applicable. And it goes on to just describe this, and then she says, thank you very much for your kind consideration and concerns, Ms. Karen Augut.
You made it, just under the wire. If you can send a copy of that to, perfect, Susan, the clerk, and she'll include that. Commission, I don't have any other cards. I just need a motion and a second. Mr. Beck? Yes, sir.
I would like to, Ms. Trescott spoke to me before the meeting started, and she wanted to know if staff would present on this, and I thought they might. I didn't know if if Mr. Leclerc would have liked the opportunity to address any of these questions or concerns that you've heard this evening. Joyce?
Mr. Mayor, we have our representative from AvCon here that can answer those questions on behalf of staff.
I'm sorry. Whomever.
Brian will introduce him if that's appropriate to do that now,
Sure.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Okay.
I have some questions.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. I'd like to introduce Jack Thompson, who's the Director of General Aviation with Avcon Incorporated, who submitted the request.
Good evening. Jack Thompson with Avcon. I had a kind of a running list of a couple questions, but I think the ones that I need to address first are the limits of the survey. The survey is not limited to the airport. It's an aeronautical survey. You've got some graphics in there. The first graphic shows the limits of the aeronautical survey. It goes about a mile out on each approach, and it's both runways. It looks at, that is the baseline. So if you look at your package, and that first graphic has a kind of green and blue
The green and blue.
graphic.
What was the red one?
The red one is the second one. That is the Part 77. So we go back to the first one. That first graphic, that's the baseline for the FAA. Okay, that's the minimum. That's the starting point for the aeronautical survey. So that meets that 18B survey. So that's the starting point.
Is that the one with the green polygons?
That's the one with the green polygons and blue circles. Yes, sir. Okay. And then the second is the Part 77. So we are addressing Part 77 surfaces in there as well. The third one, which is the blue lines, trapezoids, that's the raw data that we'll get. So those first two, they look at surfaces, obstructions. They'll identify how much an obstruction penetrates a surface, and they'll say this comes through a Part 77 surface, or it comes through an approach surface. The raw obstacle collection that we're doing, that just tells us there's an obstruction, this is how high it is. Well, we'll take that data and develop that OAP. The OAP is limited to the airport boundary. That's the things that the airport can straight away address. It's your property, you can address the obstructions on your property. And that meets the intent of what the FAA has asked you to do, is address the obstruction removal on the airport. So we'll have all the data for any of the obstructions within the surfaces that the FAA is looking for as part of this study, but the OAP is limited to the airport itself.
Any questions?
Can you explain
Commissioner
OAP?
Tolland.
OAP, I'm sorry, that's the obstacle action plan. So that's the identify, do we need to cut a tree? Do we need to put a light on top of a building? Do we need to put a light on top of a utility pole? So that's actually going to identify what those mediations are. What kind of mitigation do we need to do for each of those obstructions?
Commissioner Tolland.
So I just want to understand that the study that's in front of us, it is compliant with FAA
Yes, ma'am.
as well as FDOT. It's
Yes, ma'am.
not just limiting to FDOT.
And FDOT uses the FAA guidance. Those ACs that are cited in here, 16, 17, and 18, the FAA sets those guidances, and the FDOT is supportive of those.
And then we use aerial as well as ground surveys to identify all the obstacles.
Yes, ma'am. The ground survey is really control. They'll go out and set primary and secondary control points. They'll do profiles of the runway so that they can establish what those elevations are. The trees, the buildings, the poles, that's all from aerial survey. That is the standard. And all of that data is collected and submitted to the FAA. It goes into their Aegis database. They don't just accept it, they screen it, and they decide if it meets their requirements. If it doesn't, they'll send it back, and we have to work on it again.
I have one more question, and then
Commissioner Tallon for a follow-up.
thank you. So does this also include the Aegis instrument approach and
Yes, ma'am.
departure
It's looking at all
portion
those
as
approaches.
well?
So that second graphic, the one that had the red trapezoids, those are the approach surfaces and the Part 77 surfaces. It doesn't depict every surface that's considered, but you also have obstructions to your precision approach path indicator lights, the 4 red lights that you've got pointing out that tell pilots if they're on the approach plane. You have clearance for those as well. All of those surfaces are being considered, so we'll know if we have obstructions in any of the critical surfaces around the airport.
Commissioner Sargent? Oh, okay. So for the aerial stuff, you use a LiDAR?
They fly it, and it's a stereoscope it's not necessarily LiDAR. They take all those points and they actually read it in and manipulate the data. It's in that, our sub, Martinez, that's what they do for a living. So they're fully, competent to do FAA guidance.
Gotcha. Question? All right, thank you.
And they also do the survey during leaf-on conditions. So they won't do it in certain seasons. Our fall is spring, so that's when all the leaves fall off. So they'll wait until there's full leaves on so that they can actually pick up the top of the canopy.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. Commissioner Sargent has a question for staff. Is that going to be Brian or Stephen?
Brian.
Start with Brian.
Start with him, and if he can't answer it.
I have a question and then just a comment, Mr. Mayor. On this document, I think it's page, sorry, I should have had it up. What's it say here? Whatever it is. It's the State of Florida Department of Transportation, Public Transportation Office, Airport Inspection Record dated 2023, 2/20/23. I'm just curious why under the base aircraft it says year 2011. Why are we using data from 2011 and it says single engines, 142, 4 jets, 4 helicopters. Pretty confident there's more than 4 helicopters out there. I just don't know why we're using this data and not more current data than that.
Is that in the DOT inspection report?
Yes, that is page 96 of the packet. And it's the inspection report dated February 20th, 2023.
But the inspection date looks like it was
About
2/14.
3/4 of the way down.
Yeah, I don't know if there's
I have it right here, Brian, if you want it.
Yeah, you want mine?
sure.
About 3/4 of the way on the page.
Yeah, FAA's based aircraft database is something managed and maintained by the FAA, and we update it every year. Typically, based aircraft data is due by December 15th or thereabouts. Why FDOT would pull 2011 data, I have no answer for that, because the data is current as of this year.
Yeah, 13 years old data that they're pulling. It's interesting. I just have one other comment, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank the residents for coming out and speaking, and I think everyone's concern is safety, 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 and that we're doing this right and right the first time, so we don't have to come back and do it again. You know, we have lots of pilots, a lot of people flying in and out of this airport. We have residents that are close by, and I think it's our job to protect our residents and safety is just a major concern. I just want to make sure that we're doing this right the first time, that we don't have to come back for anything. And if we need to do it off airport, it appears that we'll have that information. So I think this is something that we need to move forward on. It's very important for our pilots and for our residents. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Tolland.
I'm sorry, I have a few more, two more questions, either for Stephen or Brian. It's regarding what Connie Colby had mentioned with the perimeter fencing. I heard this a few times, that it had been moved. And also, I don't understand what this special permit is that has been referred to. Are we working under a special permit right now?
FDOT conducts an airport licensing inspection every year, and some of the information you see in there, particularly the map from FDOT, is one of the results of that inspection. We are operating under a special license because we do have these obstruction issues that need to be addressed.
Okay. And what about the fencing, the perimeter fencing? Is that being moved? I mean, is it?
There is a project in the CIP, a 3-year project, a 3-phase project, which involves security upgrades for the airport. It includes fencing, gates, lighting, and so on. We have been made aware that our existing perimeter fence does not meet current standards. It needs to be taller. It needs to include features to prevent burrowing of animals and so on. So we will be, as part of a future CIP project, exploring replacing the perimeter fence. So yes, that is correct.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it. I would just like to say too, I have talked with a lot of residents concerning this issue, and I do appreciate their concern and all, and safety is important. And as we move forward with the airport, we just we got to get it right, and we got to be transparent with our communication and make sure that it's good for all our residents.
Thank you. Just need a motion and a second.
I move approval of resolution number 2024-54.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Briley?
Yes.
Commissioner Tolland?
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes, and now would be the appropriate time if any commissioner wanted to comment on any of the consent agenda items. Nope. If not, we'll move on to public hearings. I'll open the public hearings. Ask the clerk to read Resolution 24-55 by title, please.
Resolution number 2024-55, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Ormond Beach, Florida, approving the preliminary plat for Fountain View Phase 1C, shown within Phase 1 of the Plantation Oaks Planned Residential Development, establishing conditions and expiration date of approval and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2024-55, read by title only.
Thank you, and I'll ask our planning director, Stephen Spraker, to speak briefly on this item.
Good evening, Stephen Spraker, planning director. This is a plat for 141 lots on approximately 90 acres. It's within the Plantation Oaks development. These streets are private, and it'll connect with the existing Phase 1. There are some St. John's preservation areas within the development, and this phase is also along the Florida Power and Light easement. This is the overall master plan for Plantation Oaks, with US 1 being on the top here, Plantation Oaks bisecting the property. This particular phase is located right here on the overall development map, and they are basically working their way through the individual subdivisions. It was reviewed by our planning board, who recommended approval unanimously. The applicant is here if there are any questions.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions for Stephen or Parker, Commission?
I move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I don't have any cards. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to say something.
Commissioner Persis.
Yeah. I just was looking at this, and I just want to say that this proposed preliminary plat is consistent with the land use designation in the city's comprehensive plan. This is the adequate capacity in the public infrastructure to serve, there is adequate capacity in the public infrastructure to serve this project, and there's adequate water and sewer services to this subdivision, and it does not adversely impact environmentally sensitive lands or natural resources. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Any other discussion or comment? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Briley?
Yes.
Commissioner Tolland?
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes, and we will close the public hearings. Thank you, Parker, and move to number 9A.
Ordinance number 2024-01, an ordinance regarding the office of mayor and city commissioners for Zone 1 through 4 by providing for a calling a preliminary municipal election of the registered electors of the city of Ormond Beach to be held on August 2024, providing for and calling a regular municipal election of the registered electors residing in the city of Ormond Beach to be held on November 5, 2024, providing for qualifying and election procedures, establishing a date for taking office, authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding for services and materials with the County of Volusia, providing for severability and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2024-01, read by title only.
Thank you. I don't have any cards.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions for the clerk? If not, please call the vote.
Commissioner Tolland?
Yes.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Briley?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. Reports, suggestions, and requests. We'll start with City Manager Joyce Shanahan.
Thank you all. Just a reminder, on April 16th, the Tomoka Oaks will be held here at the Commission Chambers meeting. We had to reschedule that because of some advertising requirements. We will have room 103 available, and the training room, is that correct? The training room, as well as in the hallway overflow. So we do have monitors both in the training room and 103, so people will be able to see what's going on. We're going to have, as you know, Skip, our photographer, he's going to videotape the meeting so that can be projected live. So, do you have any questions about that meeting? Okay. Some upcoming planning for your calendar. May 7th, we would like to have a strategic planning workshop. Not a strategic planning workshop, but to update you on our strategic planning initiatives, including the PD and EOC and 56 North Beach Street. On May 21st, additional strategic plan initiatives that we'd like to update you on include upgrades to City Commission Chambers technology, the land use study for Riverbend Golf Course, and FDOT I-95 interchange project update. Mrs. Giabi White would like to come and do a presentation on that to update you on what's going on there. For further calendar planning, we would like to look at June 4th for your proposed CIP workshop. And as is customary, you generally take time off to allow us to prepare the operating budget, and so we would propose July 16th to be the operating budget workshop rather than July 23rd, because we think that's a little too far out. It's too close to the timeline that we have to get the data to the property appraiser. So conceivably, we could move your meeting to the 23rd and just have one regular meeting that month of July. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll come back with calendar change.
Do you mean move it to the 16th?
I'm sorry, yes.
Rather than the 23rd.
Right, it's already on the 23rd.
Staff corrects me. We want the workshop on the 16th, and that's all we would do on the 16th, but then have your regular meeting on the 23rd, so we have time to prepare that information for the property appraiser. Workshop only on the 16th.
Meeting on the 23rd.
And the meeting on the 23rd. That would be your regular 23rd meeting.
That's good with me.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you for correcting me. Okay. Okay, and that's all the schedule changes. I wanted to give you an update on the PAC. Paul Davis Restoration has completed their initial work of drying and mold prevention in the PAC. They will return once the insurance process moves forward to begin cleaning chairs and the area and the HVAC. Staff met with Bomar Construction. They were our original subcontractor for the improvements, to evaluate the required repairs and determine the exact scope and timeline for cost of repairs. Staff anticipates having a preliminary proposal from Bomar sometime this week or early next, and will be bringing that to the commission no later than May 7th. Bomar and their subs are confirming material availability at local warehouses to attempt to shorten the lead times of what we need. Once the work authorization is executed, they can officially order materials and begin construction. It's still anticipated that material lead time may take as long as 6 to 8 weeks. Work will proceed rapidly once the materials are in hand, and the final scheduling is still to be determined. But staff and Bomar are targeting the end of August, if not sooner, for the completion of the work. So that's good news. The official opening day for our sports, and baseball in particular, is April 6th, and that includes t-ball, baseball, and soccer. And the first games will begin with the national anthem at 9 a.m.
Thank you for including that.
You're welcome. Summer registration has begun for camps. I think the EDC camp might be already filled up, so please get your registrations in quickly. That's a very, very popular camp. The Princess and the Frog movie is April 5th. Once Upon a Story Time, that's again a very popular event that Siobhan Daly has created, and that is April 16th from 10 a.m. You need to call and register. The tickets are free, but they're extremely limited. And most importantly, and I know all of you like to come out for this, Earth Day will be celebrated on April 20th. That's a Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Environmental Discovery Center. And it's our annual tree giveaway program, so those will be available, and we encourage everyone to come out for that. The giveaways will be live oaks, red maples, bald cypress, and Dahoon hollies. The tree giveaway begins at 9 a.m. and will continue until 2 p.m. until all the trees have been distributed. Key exhibitors will include Lyonia Environmental Center, Florida Forest Service, and Florida Native Plant Society, and Girl Scout Troop 71, Halifax River Audubon, and many, many more. If you have any questions, please give me a call, and the public can contact the EDC at 386-615-7081 for more information. And I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager? Thank you, Joyce.
We thank you for your indulgence today for the meeting on Casson Park. I think we got a lot accomplished there, and thank you for your efforts there.
Great. Assistant City Manager Claire Whitley. You guys get that sorted out down there. We'll take a report from Claire Whitley.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for your patience. We have a couple of police department updates for you. So Rob Pearson's retirement, hopefully you all received that notice, is this coming Friday at 11 a.m. at the police department, to wish him well. And then also we'll be bringing you back, Officer Bakesa, who passed away recently. We will be bringing you back the workers' compensation for that claim, and the pension ordinance change that you all should be familiar with, to have those benefits applied to police as they do our other employees consistently. Thank you. No other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney Randy Hayes.
Seen tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. And tonight we start with Commissioner Tolland. How many pages?
Thank you, Mayor. Hope everyone had a nice spring break and Easter celebrations. Sometimes holidays can trigger and set off some feelings of depression and anxiety, dread, despair, rather than joy and happiness. I'm mentioning this because I do care about mental wellness of our residents and our emergency personnel. I met with Karen, and I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but I think it's Tropek. She's the Executive Director of Volusia Recovery Alliance, to learn more about how we can support our community and how we can support our emergency personnel. And I'll be sharing more later at a later time, but I just wanted to share a few stats that I learned that I was just astonished by. In January of 2023, in the zip code of 32174, there were 194 overdoses, which is 10.74% of Volusia County. We are third in the county, and you probably see these stats with drug court. This is from the Volusia County Sheriff's Office stats. We are third in the county behind Daytona and DeLand with overdoses. These were mostly white males, and the drugs were fentanyl, heroin, meth, and narcotics in that order. And I'm just bringing this up because you know I always harp on certain things, and this is why it's important to me for our community, for their mental wellness. I did put at your desk just some flyers of that I would like to be talking to staff about at some point, and how we can support some of our emergency personnel as well. On to the next subject. April is, Chief Godfrey, Native Plant Month, and this is an initiative of the Garden Club of America. Florida, but I will say that Florida is one of 12 states in the country that has not committed to native plants for sustainability. I did reach out to our governor to see if we can get that in front of him so he can sign this proclamation to encourage native plants in the state of Florida. But 12 states in the whole country, and Florida, one of the most lush states in the United States, is not one of them. Anyway, I want to mention that I enjoyed the walk and talk with FDOT up on A1A. I joined Captain Roos and D.W. Smith. It was actually a really nice morning. It was very informative to see it at a pedestrian way. When you're doing the walking, it looks very different than when you're driving. I did learn there is a learning curve for drivers, and some of the lights, the blinking lights, are not, to me, intuitive, but they are consistent with what FDOT does everywhere. So we have asked, I know Captain Roos asked staff if they would put some information on our social media to educate our residents on those changes. I enjoyed attending the Volusia League of Cities Orange City Dinner. It's always good to hear updates from the league. I did enjoy celebrating our own Marvin Miller, who celebrated his 89th birthday while raising funds for the Jewish Federation. And if anybody wants to grow up to be like somebody, it's Marvin Miller we need to grow up to be like. He's an amazing man and a great ambassador for all of us. And I did enjoy the opening of Tony Slick's art at the Museum of Art and Gardens. I thought that was just nice. It's so nice that we have this kind of talent in our town. I do like what Alan Burton said. He spoke my language with the Regrow the Loop, and with his background, trying to get that in the CIP and in our workshop. I hope that there's some interest from this commission to at least discuss that in a 5-year plan in a CIP, and maybe, Joyce, if that's appropriate, if it's at our budget workshop, is that when we talk about that?
You can talk about it there, but it would be difficult to incorporate that in the next year's CIP. That would be like a 2025 CIP.
But we would need to talk about it at a workshop at some point.
You need to discuss it at some point,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So anyway, at some point, I'll probably be talking, up here about that. Let's see. And regarding the PAC, I know that Mark Schwartz is retiring. As his retirement's coming up, he's been in that drop program. And I just want to highlight the importance of finding the right person to take over the PAC. We made a major investment in the PAC We used taxpayer money, and we also secured grants, very generous grants. And so I just want to make sure that we take our time and we secure the right person for this very important position. It's got great potential, but you got to have the right person at the helm. And finally, I do appreciate that we're doing the workshops on all these items that we've been discussing for a while. It's just so nice to hear the progress that's going on, albeit slower than I ever imagined, but I didn't know what government was like at the time. But I do appreciate all the effort from staff, and I do appreciate all the effort from the residents as well. So with that, I'll say good night.
Thank you, Commissioner Sargent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I have a question for Joyce. Has there been any communication with the superintendent of schools, set up a meeting with the mayor, and so we can get some dialogue about Osceola School?
I have not had a meeting yet with her, so I need to circle back on that. She was, I think, out of town, and then they had spring break, so I'm working to get something set up.
Okay, I'd just like to know if that's if our residents are being stuck with, or they're going to be listened to, or something. It's just still very frustrating for me. Another issue that's come up in my zone is the dogs on the beach. Residents at Tides Fall have started a petition. I think they're up to over 50 signatures. I know it's not City of Ormond Beach, it's the county, and it's a pilot program, but it appears that it's not being enforced, unfortunately, and you have dogs wandering in front of these hotels and condos, off leashes, and you have, this resident sent me a picture of a lifeguard driving his truck while this person's dog's running, chasing the ball, and it's not being enforced, and it's outside the zone. So I don't know if we can encourage the county to maybe step up enforcement. I hate to see a pilot program that has such great traction to go away because it's not being enforced properly. And I know the Lowmans donate a lot of money for that enforcement, so I don't know if there's anything we can do to help encourage
Well,
the
we
county.
can certainly give them a shout and tell them we'd like to see more enforcement.
Yeah, it might go over as well as the school board.
And maybe we could talk to a county council member that can give us some help.
I've done that as well. But thank you. That's the dogs on the beach. Also, I'd like to just bring up, in last Monday in New York, Officer Jonathan Dillers, 31-year-old that pulled someone over for a basic traffic stop, was shot and killed, and leaves behind a wife and a 1-year-old son. Just how tragic is that? Doing a basic traffic stop and lost his life, defending and protecting our, the citizens of New York. And I'm just thankful that the City of Ormond Beach, we put our first responders first, and we thank them for all that they do for us. And I just want to bring that up. It's very tragic. And also thank you to the families of our first responders, because it's not easy on them either. When y'all put on your uniforms and go out in the streets, hate to say it, but it could be the last time they see you. It's very unfortunate, and we appreciate all you do. And with that, I'll say good night, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner, and Commissioner Persis.
Yes, good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to comment about Marvin Miller. It was wonderful being at his birthday party. He's 89 years old, and you would never know that he's 89 years old. He plays tennis, he plays pickleball, he walks the bridge every morning. He's just an amazing man, and I'm so happy that staff let us celebrate with him. So thank you for arranging that, for letting us attend that. It was just awesome. And I just want to say I love the ideas I am hearing about enhancing our beautiful city. Regrow the loop. I can't imagine. I don't think anybody in Ormond Beach would say, no, we don't want to regrow the loop. Everybody wants that. It's beautiful, and it's something we need to keep in our city. So I am all for doing whatever we can to regrow that loop. I am totally in. I want to thank staff for all the reports we received today, especially on Casson Park. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be spectacular. And hopefully we'll get our Granada Bridge lit with LED lights. That's my hope and dream, that we will get that bridge lit. So at night it will be beautiful. It's beautiful even though it's not lit, but I just think seeing it lit during Christmas, during Thanksgiving, Halloween, Easter, anytime we want to light it, and this would be lighting underneath the bridge, would be absolutely beautiful. It would be brilliant and inviting. And finally, I would like to ask the commission, and this is something that maybe we could put in the 2025 CIP, if they would be interested in talking about putting our power lines, starting to put our power lines underground. You know, they're in many of our areas, they're really an eyesore. They just make our city look bad. And everything we're hearing about from our residents, they want our city to look good. And I see that as another way of just improving how the city looks, especially certain roads. And we could start with a small area and work up. But I just wonder if anybody would like to jump in on that too.
Definitely be interested in that. That is an initiative that I kind of brought up about a year ago. And I found out that it's about $1 million for about a mile.
Yeah.
Was it a block or a mile? I can't remember. It was some small amount.
Yeah.
And so it would require a lot of money and a lot of initiative. But I think if we don't ask the questions and we don't get it started, it'll never happen.
Right.
So I think it's worth at least looking into.
Yeah. I think we have some residents.
Especially on North Beach Street.
Yeah. I think we have some residents that would be willing to put money in, and if we could get a grant, when the state sees that we have residents and grants, working towards something, then I think the state will be looking at us like we mean business.
Joyce, how much was it for that corner that we just did?
About $980,000.
Yes.
Was it about $1 million?
Yes,
And just for that one little corner by the
Yes.
museum,
By the
right?
museum, yeah.
It's just crazy.
Well, when we did the downtown, I think it was
I'm sorry.
a total of $3 million? No, maybe not that much. Sean can answer some questions.
You look at Holly Hill, you drive on, you see Holly Hill, South Daytona, and some of our sister cities, they have underground power, and it looks beautiful. I mean, their streets look beautiful.
When we did the last big project we did with undergrounding was the downtown of West Granada Boulevard, which went from New Britain in this general area. It was about $4 million for what we did there, and part of the challenge isn't just the electric; it's the other co-located utilities. So you have Bell South, you have cable companies, you have some fiber optics. So there's a lot of things going into it. We can certainly look at identifying the areas that still have aerial utilities and probably map out what has aerial utilities versus underground. Start with that, and then we can start asking some questions once we have an idea of really. I think we all know those areas, but once we put it on paper, we can kind of take a little bit deeper.
I just want us to look beautiful in every place. And but thank you for that. It looks like everybody would be at least interested in looking into working on something like that. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll say good evening. Everyone be safe.
Thank you. Commissioner Deputy Mayor Briley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'll piggyback. That was actually that was going to be one of my talking points this evening about the undergrounding of the utilities, because, the city of Holly Hill just came to the Board of Realtors and asked if they could put transformers in our front yard for underground utilities along US 1 and Holly Hill. And Holly Hill's doing that. I think they're doing a lot of that with grant money. I would be curious to see what type of grants might be available to do something like this. I know, as Commissioner Purse has said, South Daytona has been successful with their underground utilities, as well as Daytona Beach Shore. So we're talking about cities that are quite a bit smaller than Ormond Beach who have been successful in doing this along their major corridors. One place I can even think of, and of course it would be way into the future, is our gateway to Ormond Beach, which is US 1 from I-95 coming in. Once that interchange is completed, I think that's going to be, we talk about how things are coming around and things are developing, and I think that's going to be the next area that's kind of, beautification to our gateway would that be that corridor. something else I've thought about too, and I don't know, I know the county has been a little bit resistant to new CRAs, but I think that would be an excellent candidate for a CRA district up there in that corridor, because I think that's going to be redeveloped along with our ISBA that we already have in place up there. So it may be something to explore at a later date. I'm not sure if the county is even interested in entertaining any new CRAs, but I think, listen, Ormond Beach, I think, is the prime example of how a CRA should be run. If you look at the Granada Boulevard downtown district, that's how you run a CRA. I think we are the shining example of Volusia County, and they should look at that and understand, how it works and how it can be successful. I will too touch as well on the evening to remember for Marvin Miller. I can't, Commissioner Tolland pointed out, Commissioner Persis pointed out how great Marvin is. 89 years old, and he is as active as most 50-year-olds, if even 40-year-olds. So it was a very, very nice night for Marvin. The Volusia League of Cities Dinner, another fantastic event. A lot of good updates from our lobbyist for the Volusia League of Cities on what's going on in Tallahassee, or what has occurred in Tallahassee. And lastly, Mr. Mayor, I'll end with, the chief knows about this, and I believe Captains Roos and Smith. The Daytona Beach Area Association of Realtors is going to hold a fundraiser for Officer Becase's family on May 3rd from 10 to 2. It will be open to the public. We invite you all to come out. We did one of these for Officer Rayner when he was still in the hospital, and it was very successful, and we hope this event will be just as successful for Officer Becase's family. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll say good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And while we were giving our reports and comments, Councilman Kent, Volusia County Councilman Troy Kent came in, and I'd like to invite him up if he wants to share any comments with us. We'd heard rumors that there might have been some positive developments this morning at the county council meeting, so that's all right.
Honorable Mayor Partington, Honorable Commissioner of Ormond Beach, Ms. Shanahan, Randy Hayes, great to see you all, and thank you for the opportunity. Mayor, with a little latitude, may I touch on a couple of issues? Sure. I appreciate that. First of all, I love hearing you talk about Marvin Miller, and I want to tell you, the early bird gets the worm, but the early worm gets eaten by the bird, so there's two ways to look at that. I reached out to Marvin a few days before this party and said, Marvin, I own this, I dropped the ball, Heather and I want to be there, and he was silent on the phone. He said, Troy, it's been sold out for 3 weeks. And I said, what a testament to you. And I'm so pleased that many of you were able to be there and support Marvin because of the great work he does in our community. Him and Phyllis, and also through the Jewish Federation. It's a really wonderful thing, and I'm pleased you all were able to be there. I also came in, I heard you all talking about Regrow the Loop. That's an initiative that I brought up with the county. Ormond Beach has partnered with us, and it's hugely successful, and it's going to continue to be. And I almost feel like I got to slow Alan Burton down because he's talking about Regrow America. Like literally like making this thing, like I'm not joking, like a national program. And I love that. So I also heard Commissioner Sargent talk about dogs on the beach, and I'll just say this. You want to talk about a wildly popular, in my opinion, successful pilot program so far? So yes, you shared a picture with me where some people had their dogs outside of the zone. But honestly, I love the picture. The humans are walking the dogs on a 6-foot leash, and I swear the dog is smiling in the picture. He looks so happy. So it's not exactly where they're supposed to be. This is a pilot program. We are educating people every day. We will get it right. We want it to be successful. So I've heard what you said loud and clear. Ms. Shanahan, feel free to send the message to the county as well. But we're going to continue to work on that. And I just am coming home from my council meeting from this morning, and I stopped here because I was hoping I could talk to you about some ECHO grants. Commission, what I want to tell you is the first 2 ECHO grants approved today were the City of Ormond Beach ECHO grants. And at 100% of your request, by the way. And what I want to tell you is, so the first one was at the sports complex, and the second one was at Nova Recreation Center. And the ratings were some of the highest by both of those. But this is what I want to share with you. Your staff is amazing. Sorry, I don't remember your name, and I apologize. Alex was there, Loretta Mosio was there, and Stephen Sibley was there. And what I read from our staff and from the ECHO committee was that basically, in a nutshell, Ormond Beach has their act together. The questions were answered. The approval was there by the ECHO committee. You received unanimous support from your county council in Volusia. And then I find out that you wise individuals have dedicated a certain percentage of your millage to make sure you always have money readily available for ECHO grants. And that, to me, is the shining star of the day for me whenever I was looking at those ECHO grants. Because one of the comments from one of the ECHO members when I was reading it was something along the lines of, this is a poster child of what should be done. This is what municipalities should be doing to make sure they have that funding. Because I asked the same question for every grant that came before us today. And the questions were was the application followed? Was there anything missing? And do they have a plan for continued success? And with Ormond Beach, the answer was yes, nothing was yes to the application was followed, nothing was missing, and yes, they have a plan for continued success. So I just wanted to come here this evening and just applaud you all for looking forward for your community, participating and grabbing those tax dollars that are there, and utilizing them in the absolute best way possible. I'm here for any questions you may have, and if not, that's fine too.
Any questions for the councilman? Thank you for that report. Yep.
Thank you all for the opportunity.
Appreciate it. And that, to me, yes.
I'm sorry, I just said one thing, I forgot. One comment I did have, and I appreciate very much enjoyed the workshop we had this afternoon regarding Castle Park and everything. And I don't want my comments during the workshop to be misconstrued. I do support the overnight docking at the dock at Castle Park. I just do agree with the concerns that legal staff has, and I think there's ways that we can remedy some of those things, but I think it's going to take some changing of ordinances and that type of thing. But again, I think it's out in the future, and I agree with the consensus that we probably don't want to do this until after the construction is done, because we don't want to be bringing people into a construction area. So anyway, that's all I had, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify that I was not against it. I just had some concerns, and I shared legal staff's concern. Thank you. Great.
I got that, and I think staff got that. So
We understood.
I thought so. Okay. Good deal. With that, on a positive note, thank you, Councilman Kent. We are adjourned.